Hello, distinguished guests. My name is Colin Zhang, an analyst at TrendForce. Today, I would like to share our insights into global energy storage market demand. My presentation is structured into two main sections. The first part provides an overview of global energy storage installation demand, analyzed from two perspectives: key regional markets and segmented application scenarios. The second part focuses on four major regional markets and selected key countries, examining their installation demand and the core drivers behind market growth. In 2026, the global energy storage market is basically positioned on a high growth and quick expansion trajectory. We estimate that global new energy storage installations will reach approximately 190 gigawatts, 518 gigawatt hours in 2026 TrendForce data based on shipment volumes. Same methodology applies below, representing a year-on-year increase of 27% in installed capacity. At the same time, average storage duration continues to increase steadily, with the global average duration expected to reach around 2.7 hours in 2026. By regions, the market is primarily driven by Asia-Pacific and the Americas, which together account for 77% of global installations. Europe's market share is expected to edge up slightly, while the Middle East and Africa (MEA) region, starting from a relatively small base, will continue to see a steady increase in its share. In 2026, China, the United States, and Europe will remain the three core markets, together accounting for an estimated 81% of global new energy storage installations, continuing to lead global demand growth. Among them, China is expected to account for nearly 44%, followed by the United States at 21% and Europe at 16%. By application segment, utility-scale energy storage will remain the dominant form of new installations globally in 2026, accounting for 87% of total installed capacity. Key growth drivers include the development of China's power spot markets, revenue diversification in overseas markets, and rising system flexibility requirements. C&I energy storage is gradually unlocking growth potential and is expected to maintain steady expansion, with China, Europe, and North America as the primary markets. In contrast, residential energy storage will face structural share compression, with its share declining from 15% in 2023 to around 6% in 2026. While Europe continues to see installations driven by high electricity and gas prices, and emerging markets in Asia, Africa, and Latin America retain some urgency due to power shortages, residential storage growth is increasingly outpaced by utility-scale projects. Turning first to the Asia-Pacific region, we expect installed capacity in 2026 to reach approximately 106 gigawatts, 270 gigawatt hours, representing a year-on-year increase of 32%. The regional market structure is characterized by one dominant player with multiple strong followers. China, as the core growth engine, is expected to account for around 85% of Asia-Pacific installed capacity by 2026. India is about to see a demand breakout and represents the most elastic emerging growth market, while Australia, Japan, and other Asian markets are expected to maintain steady growth momentum. By application segment, utility-scale energy storage continues to deliver strong growth. In 2026, utility-scale storage installations are expected to reach 242 gigawatt hours, representing a year-on-year increase of 33% and accounting for as much as 90% of total installed capacity. Incremental growth is primarily driven by China, Australia, and India. C&I energy storage is entering a high-growth phase, with installed capacity projected to reach 23.5 gigawatt hours in 2026, up 25% year-on-year. Growth in China is supported by power market reforms and diversified revenue models, while Australia, India, and Southeast Asia are also accelerating deployment. Residential energy storage remains a relatively small segment. Installed capacity is expected to reach around 4.8 gigawatt hours in 2026, a 14% year-on-year increase, with installations mainly concentrated in Australia and Japan. We come to key country analysis here. China first. Utility-scale storage is overwhelmingly dominant, benefiting from deepening power market reforms, diversified monetization mechanisms, and increasing demand from ultra-large data centers. C&I storage stands to benefit over the long term from the rollout of time-of-use electricity pricing across provinces, reinforcing multi-stream revenue models. Then, we can see Australia. Utility-scale storage remains the mainstream, with projects largely focused on alleviating renewable energy, grid connection, congestion, and providing ancillary services. C&I storage is growing steadily, driven primarily by commercial customers' demand charge management needs. Residential storage continues to expand at a stable pace, supported by subsidy schemes and energy security concerns. Next one is Japan. Residential storage accounts for nearly 40% of installations, highlighting strong structural demand for PV self-consumption and disaster resilience backup power. C&I storage derives most of its economic value from peak valley arbitrage and demand management. Utility-scale storage demand is surging as Japan's grid operators face mounting frequency and voltage stability challenges amid rising renewable energy penetration. Go on, we can see India. Utility-scale storage is driving explosive growth, supported by mechanisms such as the Viability Gap Funding (VGF) scheme, energy storage obligations (ESO), competitive tendering programs, and mandatory storage pairing policies. Large-scale renewable plus storage projects and grid-side storage are expected to be rapidly deployed, becoming the core application scenarios for India's storage market. As for other Asia-Pacific markets, in regions with relatively weak power supply and transmission and distribution infrastructure, such as Southeast Asia and South Asia, grid-side energy storage demand is expected to be progressively released. This part, we could dig into another continent, Europe. Europe's energy storage market is experiencing exceptionally rapid expansion, with a capacity CAGR of 52%, surging from 22.8 gigawatt-hours in 2023 to 80.7 gigawatt-hours in 2026. Average storage duration is increasing from 1.7 hours in 2023 to 2.4 hours in 2026, underscoring Europe's growing demand for peak shaving, grid stability, and long-duration energy shifting. While Germany, Spain, Italy, and the UK remain the dominant markets, the capacity share of other European countries is rising year by year, signaling that the region's storage market has entered a more diversified expansion phase. Emerging markets such as Poland, the Nordic countries, and Eastern Europe merit close attention. Let's see more about application scenarios. Utility-scale energy storage remains the absolute backbone of the European market. In 2026, installed capacity is expected to reach 58 gigawatt-hours, representing a year-on-year increase of 59%. And accounting for 72% of total installations. C&I energy storage is emerging as a high-growth dark horse. Installed capacity is projected to reach 5.6 gigawatt-hours in 2026, up 91% year-on-year, with a 7% market share. Clearer business models and increasingly diversified revenue streams are enabling C&I storage to deeply participate in market-based grid operations, underpinning its long-term growth potential. In the residential storage segment, although market share continues to decline, installed capacity is expected to reach 17.3 gigawatt-hours in 2026, a 47% year-on-year increase. In absolute terms, incremental installations continue to grow steadily. We could break it down here. Let us see some key countries. Germany first. Residential storage. Demand is expected to maintain stable growth in 2026, though its share continues to decline. Utility-scale storage. Rising penetration of wind and solar has led to heightened grid volatility and increased price fluctuations in power spot markets. As a result, storage assets capable of providing ancillary services and arbitrage opportunities are seeing markedly improved revenues. Supported by attractive project returns, utility-scale storage demand is expected to accelerate from 2026 onward. Then, it is Spain. Spain's utility-scale storage market is entering an accelerated transition from project planning to actual deployment in 2025-2026, with the government strongly supporting development through multiple policy initiatives and subsidy mechanisms. Move to Italy. C&I storage. Growing corporate demand for energy cost reduction and enhanced energy resilience, outage, risk mitigation is expected to drive market growth. Residential storage. The phase-out of the Superbonus 110% incentive has directly led to a decline in residential demand. Going forward, demand will increasingly be driven by PV plus storage installations aimed at lowering electricity bills and improving energy self-sufficiency. Utility-scale storage. Deployment is accelerating, primarily driven by capacity market auctions and the Maxi energy storage auction mechanism. Last one is United Kingdom. The UK market has long been led by utility-scale storage, reflecting its mature ancillary services framework. Distributed energy storage continues to grow steadily, driven mainly by storage economics and energy security considerations. In the Americas, new energy storage installations are projected to reach 38 gigawatts, 128 gigawatt-hours in 2026. Representing a year-on-year capacity increase of 4%. Average storage duration in the region is expected to rise from 2.9 hours in 2023 to 3.4 hours in 2026, indicating a shift in market demand from short-duration frequency regulation toward longer-duration applications. The United States maintains an overwhelmingly dominant position, accounting for 82% of installed power capacity and 85% of installed energy capacity across the region. By segment in the Americas, utility-scale storage is expected to reach approximately 118.4 gigawatt-hours in 2026, a 5% year-on-year increase, accounting for as much as 93% of total installed capacity. Its dominant market share is expected to remain structurally stable over the long term. C&I storage installations are projected at around 4 gigawatt-hours, up 18% year-on-year. While the absolute scale remains small, the segment is underpinned by a solid foundation for long-term, steady growth. Residential storage installations are expected to reach approximately 5.4 gigawatt-hours, representing a 14% year-on-year decline, with negative growth primarily attributable to policy volatility and incentive adjustments. Shall we know more details about the Americas? United States. Utility-scale energy storage holds an overwhelmingly dominant position, accounting for 94% of total installations. This reflects the fact that U.S. energy storage policies, particularly investment tax credit (ITC) incentives, are primarily focused on large-scale renewable energy integration and projects about grid stability. Chile. Utility-scale storage accounts for an exceptionally high 98.4% share, closely linked to the large-scale deployment of wind and solar capacity in recent years, which has led to increasing renewable curtailment and an urgent need for grid balancing and flexibility resources. Canada. The market is showing a clear acceleration trend, indicating that, driven by net zero targets and rising renewable energy penetration, Canada's energy storage market is rapidly catching up. As for other markets, the energy storage mix is more diversified. While utility-scale storage still accounts for around 60%, residential and C&I storage together represent approximately 40%. This structure reflects greater reliance on behind-the-meter storage in countries such as Brazil and Mexico, where users deploy storage to cope with high electricity prices and grid stability challenges. In 2026, new energy storage installations in the Middle East and Africa, MEA, are projected to reach 12.5 gigawatts, 39.5 gigawatt-hours, representing a year-on-year increase of 48% in installed capacity. Average storage duration in the region is expected to rise from 2.5 hours in 2023 to 3.2 hours in 2026, underscoring the strong and growing demand for long-duration energy storage in MEA markets. By segment in the Middle East and Africa, in 2026, utility-scale storage installations are expected to reach 34.5 gigawatt-hours, up 50% year-on-year, accounting for 87% of total capacity. Deployment is primarily concentrated in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. C&I storage is projected at 2.1 gigawatt-hours, representing a 47% year-on-year increase, with a 5% market share. After a contraction in 2025, the sharp rebound in 2026 highlights the structural demand among C&I users, such as factories and shopping centers for self-consumption and backup power in environments characterized by high electricity prices and low grid reliability, supporting strong long-term growth potential. Residential storage installations are expected to reach 2.9 gigawatt-hours, up 29% year-on-year. The strong rebound reflects persistent structural demand driven by grid instability and electricity price volatility. Here are more details about key countries. Saudi Arabia. Energy storage deployment is massive in scale, and like the UAE, the market structure is highly concentrated, with utility-scale solar projects accounting for nearly 100% of installations. This directly reflects the urgent need for large-scale storage driven by Vision 2030 and mega projects such as NEOM. United Arab Emirates. The storage market is in a phase of extremely rapid growth, dominated by utility-scale storage, which accounts for up to 99% of installations. Deployment is primarily aimed at supporting stable grid integration and 24-hour power supply for large renewable projects, such as the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park in Dubai. South Africa. The market is mainly characterized by utility-scale and residential storage. Residential storage. Ongoing power outages and expectations of rising electricity prices continue to support upside potential for behind-the-meter installations. Utility-scale storage. Deployment relies largely on government and grid operator-led tenders. Early-stage awarded projects are expected to gradually convert into installed capacity, driving utility-scale growth in 2026. In the end, about other MEA markets. Utility-scale storage accounts for around 52%, while residential and C&I storage represent approximately 30% and 18% respectively. In these markets, power shortages and economic considerations are driving strong penetration and demand for behind-the-meter energy storage. We could draw some conclusions in the end. TrendForce projects that global new energy storage installations will reach approximately 190 gigawatts, 518 gigawatt hours in 2026, representing a 27% year-on-year increase in installed capacity, with average storage duration rising steadily to around 2.7 hours. China, the United States, and Europe will remain the three core markets, accounting for 81% of global new installations and continuing to lead global demand growth. Among them, China is expected to account for nearly 44%, followed by the United States at 21% and Europe at 16%. Utility-scale storage will continue to dominate global new installations, with a capacity share of 87%, driven by China's power spot market development, diversified overseas revenue streams, and rising system flexibility requirements. Residential storage demand is expected to edge up modestly, with divergent regional dynamics. Europe continues to see strong installation urgency due to persistently high electricity and gas prices, while the United States and emerging markets in Asia, Africa, and Latin America are likely to see growth driven by high power prices and electricity shortages. C&I storage is gradually unlocking growth potential and maintaining a steady expansion trajectory. In China, power market reforms are enabling diversified revenue models, while overseas, C&I markets, though smaller in scale, are beginning to show incremental growth. By regions, Asia-Pacific, storage installations remain in a high-growth phase, with a market structure characterized by one dominant player with multiple strong followers. Europe, experiencing explosive growth with increasingly diversified market development. Americas, the storage market continues to expand, evolving toward longer duration applications. Middle East and Africa, led by Saudi Arabia and the UAE, with other emerging markets gradually ramping up storage deployment. This concludes TrendForce's analysis of global energy storage market demand in 2026. Thank you all for your attention.